This is your Griot Sensei Bob, straight from the eye surgery. And it's all good. I'm always being scanned. But so are you. We're all in a surveillance economy. I was just listening to an economist. I think he was Spanish or French. He might be the guy who wrote the book Capital. But he was talking about how capitalism is no longer capitalism. It's basically a genetically modified shark eating everything, right? Because we basically have this real problem of economics in that we have this ever-growing mountain of debt, and at the same time, we have this tremendous mountain of liquid assets in corporations and very rich folks, and the distance between that 1% and everybody else is growing wider and wider. And it's very similar to, every time there's a empire shift that occurs. But because everything is so global, this is all interconnected. And unless the human race, all 6-point-something billion of us, realize that we need to imbibe the motif of empathy and love for all our relations, not just a few in our tribe. Anyway, so let's see. I lowered the shield. I really can't read the text. It's really, let's see. Last October. Yep. Well, it's an ongoing thing. Did any of you guys ever see The Clockwork Orange, the movie? And our hero, Malcolm McDowell, who's just a good old wobby, finally gets caught, and they're going to use him as the test subject. And they put him in this lab where they strap him to a seat, hold his eyes open with, these clamps, and dump in tons of chemicals so his eyes can't move. He's got to look at what he's looking at. And I get the same thing because I get this big needle in my eye every 90 days or so. And the first time the guy came at me with this big needle, he basically said, "Don't look at the needle." I was like, "What?" And that's where we're at, sociological. We're in this gigantic metaphor, the big needle. Don't look at the needle. And so we're at this barrier, right, of fear, greed, violence, and apathy. And instead of energizing ourselves, not with a belief structure, like Make America Great Again or Brexit or any one of 1,000 other propagandic slogans, no, where we embrace to in every day and every way take the piece of the earth and make it stronger. And that's where we are right now. Let's see.
It is rather because one can be in government today and not in power, because power has migrated from the political to the economic sphere, which is separate. Indeed, I spoke about my quarrel with capitalism. If you think about it, it is a little bit like a population of predators that are so successful in decimating the prey that they must feed on that in the end they starve. Similarly, the economic sphere has been colonizing and cannibalizing the political sphere to such an extent that it is undermining itself,
We have
causing economic crisis.
the best legislators
Corporate
money
power
can
is
buy.
increasing, political goods are devaluing, inequality is rising, aggregate demand is falling, and CEOs of corporations are too scared to invest the cash of their corporations. So, the more capitalism succeeds in taking the demos out of democracy, the taller the twin peaks and the greater the waste of human resources and humanity's wealth. Clearly, if this is right, we must reunite the political and economic sphere, and better do it with a demos being in control, like in ancient Athens, except without the slaves or the exclusion of women and migrants. Now, this is not an original idea. The Marxist left had that idea 100 years ago, and it didn't go very well, did it? The lesson that we learned from the Soviet debacle is that only by a miracle will the working poor be re-empowered, as they were in ancient Athens, without creating new forms of brutality and waste. But there is a solution. Eliminate the working poor. Capitalism is doing it
Don't
by
kill them.
replacing low-wage
Bring them
workers
into the scene.
with automata, androids, robots. The problem is that as long as the economic and the political spheres are separate, automation makes the twin peaks taller, the waste loftier, and the social conflicts deeper, including soon, I believe, in places like China. So we need to reconfigure, we need to reunite the economic and the political spheres, but we better do it by democratizing the reunified sphere, lest we end up with a surveillance-mad hyper-autocracy that makes the Matrix, the movie, look like a documentary. So the question is not whether capitalism will survive the technological innovations it is spawning. The more interesting question is whether capitalism will be succeeded by something resembling a Matrix dystopia or something much closer to a Star Trek-like society where machines serve the humans and the humans expend their energies exploring the universe and indulging in long debates about the meaning of life in some ancient Athenian-like high-tech agora. I think we can afford to be optimistic.
Yep, I think we can afford to be optimistic. I'm optimistic. Why do you think I do this channel, Because I'm optimistic, I could just, go, oh, woe is me, and, wait 10, 20, whatever many years it would take for me to kick off. Whereas I can use that same time doing some pretty fun, amazing things and being that pebble in the pond. And that thing that guy was talking about, he was describing the situation very well. But he wasn't quite saying what kind of thing is that Star Trek new civilization going to be like, that we're all going to live in soon. Or what is that dystopian matrix kind of place, which I think we're already in? That's the question, And you really can't fight it like the movies guy do with submarines and ray guns. And no, you got to do it with love, So I had to develop a new alternative aesthetic, right? So the thing that I see is that the only real obstacle is that we're actually at an obstacle, a barrier, to ascend our, conscious free will. We have to go through this barrier, and we just clink, 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 because we want to take all this stuff with us, We can't let it go, We're still arguing over tribal issues that, were settled, 16,000 years ago. And that we are being scammed by the dynamic that we don't even know our history, don't know where we came from. We don't know who was the precursor of us, who manufactured us. And if you read my novels at xratted.blogspot.com, in it is buried as a code, as were, about what is coming, what is here, what is now, There are two books about Baron Trump, right? And they were written in the 1908 to 1917 zone, like kind of the same zone the Wizard of Oz was written about, and it really tells what's going on with Donnie. So go read those. They are open source on the internet. If you went to Wikipedia and said, what are the stories? Two novels written in early 20th century, Baron Trump's Great Adventure, and A Little Prince, or something like that. That would bring you some interesting stuff. And right now, I keep talking about, how all these like really different trends are all coming together in right there in the, we started back in the 40 days and 40 nights, and then we went into the 18-month window of opportunity, which now has been, I started it probably 6 months ago, and we still have another 18 months. Because everything isn't linear, gang, but it's clicking down, meaning as of the 1st of August, we're going to be at the 17-month window of opportunity, right? So, and we've been, going up and down this little, monkey ladder for an awful long time. And again, this is why I'm here. This is why Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob is here, to give the window, to give the doorway, to give the opportunity to the artist in the first person, that person who's truly that Aborigines, that first person who wants to be everything that conscious free will was made by love's co-creation to be, and we had this great, amazing opportunity of doing it in the next, 18 months, soon to be 17 months. And this transitional period has occurred, I would say, at least 1,100 other times. But it usually takes somewhere between 160,000 years and 1 billion years for those trends to come together in a window of opportunity. So here we are, and usually after the window slams closed and you haven't gotten on the other side or ascended or realized, which a lot of people are realizing, a lot of people are stepping up and sweeping away the old. The folks who just get stuck with the same old same and they can't move on, that's where this, when the window comes shut, it's not going to be a happy thing if you're stuck. And if you're ready to let go and ascend, well, it won't be that bad. And it'll be a great opportunity, So that's where we're at. Let's see. Again, I can barely read. Can't you explain, Trish, Holocaust, please? Irish Holocaust. Oh, yes. There's always a Holocaust going on somewhere. I mean, right now it's going on in Yemen. A couple of years ago it was going on in Syria. A couple of years ago before that it was going on in Lebanon. And then, Iraq. It's always going on. Going on in Africa. Anywhere there's resources, anywhere that's rich in something, that's where you're going to find peoples being oppressed. And in Ireland, what happened, after St. Patrick showed up and threw the Celts and the Bards out and replaced it with the Holy Roman Empire and the Church of War, the big Red Cross, that's when the Irish people were being more and more oppressed because England was Rome, right? And they did it to Scotland and Wales, and killed off all the free folk and, bought off the earls and dukes, the families, and basically turned everyone into what they are now, employees, basically slaves. So in Ireland, even though the Celts and the bards were drawn out or killed or piked, the spirit never died. Aaron never dies, The only thing that can wear it out is the edifice of the artifice of gold. And that's what happened in 88 when Ireland signed the Maastricht Treaty and joined the EU, right? Now, the Brexit thing's about to happen, and lots of shit's going to happen. And that's probably good for everyone if they can be awake and stay on top of it. Now, Ireland's really set up well for it. And if they were to embrace their northern brothers, that would be it. And the bottom line, northern and, the free lands of Ire represent the microcosm, the metaphor of slavery, right? So, the Irish Holocaust occurred when it took Rome, England, to, beat Ireland down to the point where, they were just in the mud. And so they embraced the Roman Catholic religion, even when England went into Protestantism, and had a lot of kids. So they're reproducing pretty quick. So from, since the Magna Carta, it's just like the American Constitution. American Constitution said, we the people, and the only people that we the people were those white land-owned men. Because before then, everybody had a free wheel at America, but with the Constitution, it kind of codified it into the white, rich, land-owned men club. And same was with the Magna Carta. So when other countries of the English Empire tried to reproduce it in their own land, So basically, Ireland got the short shift of it, right? And England was starting to industrialize. England was the Holy Roman Empire's version of what we did with China. And then England did what the Holy Roman Empire did to it. England did to America. America did it to Japan. And America and Japan did it to China. It's like a virus, right? So anyway, Ireland was a special place. It never quite took the bit of oppression. It could go along just so they wouldn't kill them. But as the years went by, Ireland was extraordinarily fertile. And England was cutting all its trees down for steam engines and building industry. And so Ireland became their breadbasket. Wasn't too far away. A day's little boat ride. Throw it on this new thing called the steam engine, and bingo, you got fresh fruit all over the place, right? And England could keep its lawns, and its parks, instead of having to grow food and have goats and cheese and things there. Anyway, so that's what Ireland did for a good 300 years. Again, Northern Ireland became the industrialized arm. Pretty much all those countries, the North is the industrial. America, North, industrial. Korea, North, that's why the commies went north, because the World Bank or Mr. Rothschild stuck them there so they could eat the industrious North Koreans up. The Southern Koreans were always the farmers, and that's exactly about Ireland. Northerners and the industrial kind of folks up there in the north, and the rest of Ireland was farmers. And so they were getting to a point where they didn't need all these Irish folk, right? The Irish folk didn't want to leave. It's their home. They've been there forever. They were there way before the Romans or the English showed up. So anyway, they couldn't get rid of them. So they had to figure out how to do it. So around there's a very interesting time between 1780 and 1830. I would say it's like when the aliens landed and dumped off a whole bunch of technology. And part of it was biology and math, right? So bottom line, England goes all around the planet on boats, and the Dutch too, and they bring in every plant, every bug, everything, and basically cause havoc because they bring all these species from someplace else to someplace else, diseases too. So the good thing, it made everyone a little stronger, but before that happened, everyone else died. So in that process, the English Audubon Society and the Science Society and the biology guys and chemical guys of France and Germany, the Germans are like gaga for chemistry. They spent in the early 1800s a billion man hours, and that was back in the day when a billion went a long thing, a billion man hours just on aniline dyes. And the reason you have plastics is those German guys, you know, for that billion hours of research on aniline dyes, because that's the homeland of the zines of all the carbon molecules that we make everything out of, right? So back over to Ireland, they have all these plants that have been brought from all over the place, and all these diseases come up, and then Ireland beats them down. And so the guys who were in England and France too, that were studying, look at all this, and look at this. Ireland is an island, so shit can happen, and it won't spread to the rest of the place. We can always, shut it down. So they were farting around. I mean, they were doing what Monsanto was doing. Actually, Monsanto and Bayer are great grandchildren of these guys. So anyway, they're actually trying to find, this gene of this plant and this one, put them together, it'll make a stronger corn plant, stuff like that. I mean, just what Monsanto is doing right now. But they weren't, on the DNA level. They were on a more like a fruit fly level. And so those things kind of work on funguses and things of that nature, because once you get down into the DNA level, that's a whole nother scene. So anyway, these chuckleheads are figuring out what works best, what plants do this, how we can put that, and da-da-da-da. And they understand about bee pollinization and simple versions of irrigation and fertilizer. I mean, they didn't get into nitrates yet, but they were like realizing, they were bringing on the first heralding of modern farming, right? Industrial farming. So in their little labs, they came across a fungus that just took out sugar-based carbohydrates, which is like basically the most super duper one that this fungus went after was potatoes. Yeah, it had a little thing on corn and anything that was kind of like that sugar that's in a potato, that carbohydrate, it would fix. But the potatoes are so specifically special, especially the ones from in Ireland. Not so much, they tried it on potatoes from France and Germany and America. And this fungus really didn't get carried away there. But in Ireland, it went nuts. So they passed a law stating that the Irish people can only eat potatoes. Well, that's all they were eating anyway, because the rich people only gave them potatoes because it gave them a lot of energy to work, but it burned them out. So they didn't live longer than 35, 40 years old if you're on a diet of potatoes. From kiddom till about 30, you are just, balls to the wall. And, a lot of those guys died by, drowning and walking in front of something or any of the above. Most people didn't live past 50. I mean, if you were 50, you were an old timer. Anyway, so this fungus explodes through Ireland, and all the Irish people have nothing to eat. Yet they're working in the fields of the English, growing cabbage and carrots and everything else. And by law, if that guy sticks a carrot in his pants and takes it home to his kids because they're starving to death, the the landlords who they're living on their land and working for will hang the whole family with the blessing of the government, right? So that basically right there is the Irish Holocaust, because in the space of little less than 3 years, anywhere from 4 million people to 20 million people died from this, right? And you don't really hear too much about it. So and that's why there was this tremendous flux of folk from Ireland to America. And so, because they were white, they spoke English, and there were already a bunch of Irish people here. If you go watch the movie Streets of New York with Daniel Day-Lewis, Daniel Day-Lewis is like Irish as you get, but he was born in America, so all those Irishmen coming over, they're like heathens. And he's slitting their throat. He's an OG. So that was the Irish Holocaust in a thumbnail. But the movie, Gangs of New York is really good. And so they were sending all these Irish guys over right at the height of the wars in the Civil War. So the North desperately needed people to go south and fight and die. And they would take the Irish guys right off the boat and give them a uniform and stick them on a train to go fight General Lee. And so many died. It was like a flip of the coin whether more were dying in America in the fields of the Civil War or whether more were dying in the fields of Ireland of starvation. And so at a certain point, New York City was being glutted by Irish folk. And what's truly interesting, New York is going through it again. A friend of mine who's in New York told me that the population of New York City, Manhattan, has grown by 1 million in the last 10 years. Mostly really rich people, so the really poor people are just getting. You think San Francisco and the Silicon Valley, New York City is like mind-boggling. So we are repeating all of these trends, but we're doing it on a global scale. And I would say in the next 18 months, by 2022, right now you already see all the frayed things come, the tapestry is falling apart. By 2022, there are going to be a number of catastrophic events, earthquakes, floods. The United States have over 160 nuclear reactors that are still working today that were supposed to be shut. They were designed to be shut down in the 80s, but because it became realized to the bankers that nuclear power couldn't really make you money, even with the Price-Anderson Act, which guarantees you $16 for every dollar you put in and doesn't hold you responsible for any kind of accident, right? So like 3 Mile Island, that utility didn't pay for it. So, and in Shoreham, Shoreham didn't pay for that. The taxpayers did pay, but the stockholders did not pay for Wilco's gross mismanagement of their utility, or the ones that are New York City just blacked out. Why? Because it's, they haven't put a nickel into redoing their system. They have put it all into their stock and driving the stock price. That's why the stock market's going throughout. It's not like they're making any more widgets or profiting anything. They're just taking the cash they have and buying out their stock. So their stock price goes through the roof. They're paid. Their bonuses are all wired to where the stock is going to be. If it keeps going up, they make more money. And they can bail at any time, leaving everyone else to hold the reins. And in 08, one of the things that really underpinned everyone is that all of these retirement funds had money in those banks that were giving those derivatives out. And we're doing it again, but instead of giving it to people's houses, they're giving it to businesses that are like a scam, meaning instead of buying that machine, the guy's putting it in his pocket. And the other thing is the two big debts are car loans and college loans. So, and it's not just here, it's anyway. So I would say 2022 is like, whoa, baby, it's going to be, 12 years from 2012. And what you're going to see every, 10 years, right? 2012 to 2022, that's 10 years, right? Every 10 years, you're going to see when 2022 rolls around, there's going to be like, oh my God, meaning all of the crazy weather, all the crazy stuff in our politics, all the crazy economics, and all the crazy everything that's been going on will make what these last 10 years seem like just a skip in the park. Because from, 9/11 to 2012 was like, whoa, we never experienced anything like that. And then from 2012 till now, to 22, to now, really, it's like every day, every hour is like what most people experienced in like, a lifetime of chaos. Anyway, so that's where we are, kids, and so that's what happened to the Irish. And back in the day, after the Civil War, as they expanded out into the West, the Irish, they were treated as bad as black people and Chinese. There were signs saying, no dogs, no blacks, no Chinese, no Irish. And then, about 50 years later, that term went to Italians, Germans, Polish, and Jews. You couldn't get in here. It was, just kind of what Donnie did. And if Donnie even read a book or any of those bald morons, I'm really tired to talk about bald people, but anyway, they would have known that what they were doing, other people had done it pretty much on a 75-year to a 100-year thing. This happens in America, right? And so if they had embraced, our forefathers were racist and we should be like them, make America like George Washington. And anyway, so, and that's kind of what they did anyway. But the good, see, out of everything, there's something good. Nothing really happens without love's co-creation. So what's going to happen is that this is going to be in everyone's face so amazingly bad that they're going to realize, we got to stop I got to stop thinking more about me and more about my neighbor, my brother, my sister, everybody who's not, my blood, but still are my family, all my relations. Once we go there, everything will pan out okay, right? And it won't end oh, it's going to be terrible in 50 years. Yeah, it's going to be terrible. Go read my XRA, X-rated, XRATTED.blogbot, missing teeth is tough. Anyway, you know the address. And there's a story called Ray. And go read that. Pretty much it's saying what it's going to be like in 40 or 50 years. I wrote it in, I think, 2012. And I was thinking 100 years, but not so much. It's sped up a lot. So, anyway, my eyes usually go back. I mean, I can see barely, but dim light is better right now. And by Saturday, I'll be okay. Be able to drive. Right now, everything looks like it's wrapped up in Vaseline. Anyway, how many minutes have I talked? Well, about 33, give or take. So that was the Irish. And like I said, every group in America, and that's why America is so great, because virtually everyone except the white Anglo-Saxons had to go through that. So that's what makes it American. All those people, those immigrants who had to go through that, the Chutney the Thirds and all the really wealthy folk who had their money from way, way, way back. And that's just getting worse. I mean, this tax law has just made it so all the rich people don't have to pay anything. Even when they die, they don't have to hand it over. America really was extraordinarily, made a lot of money for everybody between 1947 and 1977. And that is the only time that, the taxation of people's, what they make, which really never happened until, the Federal Reserve, which is a corporate, privately owned, has nothing to do with the American. The guys who print our money have nothing to do with our government. Our Constitution says that the Treasury is supposed to print our money, but we passed the totally unconstitutional Federal Reserve Act. And then a few years later, we passed the IRS, right? And go study those, right? And also go to the document that created the District of Columbia. I think it's HRS 1871 because it was, passed in 1871. So go look that, read that bill, the bill of making District of Columbia. And that's when you see, ruh-roh, because we went from we the people to we the corporations. And it went from, singularly, American to a transnational kind of disco, so. And that's, and this has been going now on 600 years, right? And that's just when we started to climb out of the Dark Ages. And before the Dark Ages was another hiatus of humanity's, trying to break through the barrier of greed, stupidity, violence, and laziness, And we're right again. The window's open, The ascension of the free will is right at our hands. We just got to step up to it, right? We got to be awake. And, this is a message that I wish more than 320 people were getting, but that's enough. If all of those 320 folk, embrace like, each other as a cadre, then the game we've got it down, right? So anyway, I can't read the chats on the side there. I wish I could figure out how to make my simple laptop here talk to me saying, that so-and-so said blah, blah, blah. Right? And boy, what I really wish is if I could speak into the microphone and let it type stuff, because every time I type a title for this, it spells it in a very strange way. And I have no idea, how to make the spell check thing work on this thing, because this ain't a computer. It's just a portal. I'm at a portal here at Port Authority. I'm at the portal. And, So I'll be heading up to help John get his thing in order before I head off to the Deep Green in a week or two. But I'm just drawing up all my my medical loose ends before I leave, because I want to be in the best shape I can, because I probably will be at least a few months before I come back for any medical anything. And in that time, other things, that's the beauty of life. You should never expect the same thing to happen every day, right? One of the biggest problems with most people's neuroses of their life is that they do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome with each attempt. Even though they do the same thing in the same way, they expect a different outcome. Why didn't I become, Now, when I buy a $2 lottery ticket, I know there's more of a chance of a asteroid coming out of the space and smashing into me than me winning that lottery ticket. But it's a lot safer than getting hit by the asteroid. And if I don't, I'm just out $2, right? And so that's like my business plan, whenever I can afford $2 that week, and the numbers are, I try to play it between when there's 70 to 200 mil in it, because when it goes above 200 mil, but the number of people who buy a ticket goes up by a lot. If it stays under 200 mil, your chances are like, insignificantly better. But anyway, so That's why I live for the day, and I try to do my best. And everyone I come in contact with, I try to make feel better because that makes me better. I've just spent the last week and a half seeing about 6 different doctors, and if anything is wrong with any of them, things are going to go, chop legs off, crack chests, all those kind of things. But every time I go see them, they're kind of going to go, wow, you're really doing, for a dead guy, you're doing really good. That's what my endocrinologist, that's his big joke. For a dead guy, you're pretty good. So I basically embrace every day, and I have to, I wake up to pain, go to sleep. When I put my little head on the pillow, I go into state, I evacuate whatever negative things had happened that day. Somebody yelled at me or cut me off or took my parking spot or any of those kind of things. I put it away. I evacuate it, right? And then I visualize the positive things that occurred. And I look at what I want to do in the near future, and I go with that. And I think of the best thought. I speak the best word. I have the best action. I have the best outcome. You got to do all of those things. Good thoughts, good words, good intention, good action, good deeds, good outcomes. So that's what I try to do every day. Not like, some superhero or a great famous person, no. Just my little self, in my best way, I just kind of try to do my best thing. And that's kind of how it goes. So, and I work on the things I can change or work on, and things I can't change or can't, I don't, lose my mind over it. I either go around it, go over it, get away from it, but I don't inject it into the squirrel cage. I try to starve the squirrel, I just use this as my Rolodex, not as the engine of my squirrel mind. So anyway, it's all good. I'm sleeping on a couch, which isn't too bad. It's longer than I am. That's the secret of a good snooze on a couch. As long as your legs aren't hanging off the edge or you're not, if it's long enough for you just to go horizontal, then it's very good. It's a little lumpy. It's a little hard. It's like a 1960 something couch. Anyway, so it's all good. I can see your sensei has survived another little process. And again, my eye doctor said, yeah, your eye's pretty good. Every time you do this, it actually gets better rather than just not getting worse. Because that's what it was designed, to keep you from going worse, not get better. Because making money was having you come back over and over again. And since I'm, a lab rat, I wonder if he's playing with the secret sauce, because he actually kind of makes it, where I say, where is Bob? And they go, oh, he's preparing, the process, meaning he just doesn't have it someplace in the refrigerator and bingo, bango. No, he prepares it. So I have a sense that I am a lab rat. But my eyes are getting better. I used to have black spots and floaters, and I could barely see. Now I can actually see pretty good. And I still need glasses to read, and I like to be able to see things sharp. So I need kind of glasses to drive. And I mean, I can, by the little test they gave me when I got my license, it was like, yeah, not a problem. But I like to be able to read that sign and see really sharp things. And what I love is the Dollar Tree. Here's a shout out to you, Dollar Tree. Unlike other dollar stores, you are a dollar. Everything is a dollar. For $10, I can bring 10 items out of there. I love you, Dollar Tree. And you keep me seeing these glasses came from the Dollar Tree, and these other glasses came from the Dollar Tree. And the only way I can see is, and they actually have sunglasses that are readers that go from about $1 up to $275. And my seeing things, from tip of my nose into infinity is about $175. And then everything's sharp. Without it, I can see it, but with it. And it's $1. Thank you, Dollar Tree, And I keep talking about navigation of one's life, and that's kind of it. Instead of having to buy things from Amazon, instead of buying these glasses from Amazon, same glasses, same manufacturer, same everything, I bought them on Amazon, maybe $35. The Dollar Tree, $1. The same pizza wheel cutter, Dollar Tree, $1. Amazon, $42. It's like people buy things on that because they think it's convenient. But why they really do it is because they like putting all those boxes with the smiles out on the curb so everyone can see, oh, look at Bob. He just bought 1,000 of something. Look at all those boxes. It's like, so what else can I say? I can't see anything here. Let's see. Oh, there's John. Hey, John. Let's go to New York. Well, that sounds, we'll have to talk about it. I'll be back, Saturday, tomorrow, Sunday, sometime when I can see. But soon I'll be back up the hill. Yeah, I'm up for it. New York's my town. I'd love it. We just have to make sure that I don't get left somewhere on the side of the road, But yeah, I'm up for it. I'd really like to spend 1 or 2 days on the school and get everything snip snap. So it's like we can leave and those bedrooms are clean and things are neatly put away and you feel good. You don't, you can come back to the school without I have to do all this work. You know what I mean? Really, just a couple of days, we could get a lot of stuff, snip snap. Right? Anyway, I'll be back soon. I love you all. Let's see. I like that. My grandmother just passed away a year or 2 ago. Yep. See, that's what I'm telling everyone. We don't live in linear time. It's like Big Bang time. It's all the same time. So I'm up for it. How long have we been talking? Let's see. 47 minutes. And there's 8 people on there. That's amazing. Who else is there? Or Boston. Uncle Fugness, you live in Boston? We'll come on up and visit you, buddy. No, but you know who does pay a really good wage is Kroger's. I kind of found out that Kroger's, as the monster corporate gigantic supermarket, overall is a pretty good entity. I mean, it has a the way it boxes and deals with its materials and how much food they give away instead of just putting it into a dumpster where no one can touch it. I mean, and yes, they give I think their average is close to 15, if not more. So, and they hire everybody, So, yes. Now, Dollar Tree, I'm not sure. Usually, everyone looks like they're on meth when they go in that place. The fluorescent lights kind of turn everyone green, and for some reason, no one has teeth there. So, it's an interesting thing. But everything is $1. That's where I'm coming from, right? From my own personal transactional point of view of materialism. Hey, it's just $1. I can afford it, right? No one's, I got to pinch every penny. I actually have what they call a budget, because once I get past a certain amount of money, I have no money, period. Right now, I have $3 in my pocket, and that has to last me, maybe 2 or 3 weeks. So anyway, that's why, when I go to the deep green, it doesn't really cost me anything because I'm camping and I know what grows in the woods and I eat what's in the woods and I don't have to, drive anywhere. And the beautiful lake is a mile down there and the beautiful waterfall is a mile over there. And I have really very nice shady spots where I have hammocks and I read books and put the photo cell out there in the sun and run the wire to my laptop so I can write my novels. I can't go on the internet. I wish, I don't wish. I'm glad there is no internet, no cable, no radio, no television, no go to the mountains being sawtooth unless you're on the tippy top. And even that, there's no way to get satellite because satellite isn't above you. It's kind of on the horizon. So that's kind of why I live in the deep green. Now, it looks like it's, stemming up to be the new uber rich place for people to be. And I guess maybe that's where I'm supposed to be, being the Griot Sensei Al Bob for the uber rich. Maybe I'll start a church of the Griot Sensei Al Bob Holy Roller Church of the most sacred, supplicated oven mitt, where God is an oven mitt. Hail the oven mitt. For when we have the casserole in the oven at 375 and we take it out, we put the oven mitt on and we reach into the inferno and take that space age pot out and we don't burn our hand. It's a miracle. Praise the oven mitt, the new religion for a new age of materialism. Anyway. Dollar Tree. Dollar. Dollar Tree. Dollar Tree. Come on, everyone sing. A Dollar Tree. A dollar, Dollar Tree. A dollar. Anyway, so gang, it's always a pleasure. I'm getting a little peaked. I think I'm just gonna take a little nappy poo. Okay. So good to see y'all. And see if I can get this little thing on there. I'll try and talk to you tomorrow. Dollar Tree, dollar Tree, dollar.